I think that the banks will give Bitcoiners 550 basis points risk-free when they can custody the Bitcoin. And so the world would be very different if you got paid 5% interest on your Bitcoin while you're actually holding the Bitcoin. And I think the other thing is,
hey guys, welcome back to Everyday Finance. In this video, Saylor discusses Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin is positioned for substantial appreciation, with the potential to increase in value by 100 times, possibly sooner than many market participants anticipate. Saylor, Executive Chairman of MicroStrategy, highlights the critical need for stronger governmental support, equitable accounting standards, and the ability of financial institutions to effectively handle Bitcoin. Meeting these conditions could enable Bitcoin to gain broader acceptance and utility similar to traditional currencies, paving the way for its price to reach new all-time highs. Investors should stay alert for additional insights from Saylor on the factors that could contribute to Bitcoin's potential for high returns. It is also essential to consider the inherent costs associated with Bitcoin monthly futures due to their extended settlement periods. Sellers typically demand an annualized premium of 5% to 10% to offset the risk of holding these contracts over time. The annualized premium basis rate for Bitcoin futures has recently stabilized at 6%, indicating that the demand for leveraged positions betting on a price decline has remained consistent over the past week. Although this level is slightly below the more bullish 8% observed 4 weeks prior, the data suggests that market sentiment remains robust. From a technical perspective, the market is showing resilience at the $54,000 support level despite recent price volatility. The BTC USD 4-hour chart reveals a bullish divergence in the Relative Strength Index, RSI, a key indicator of momentum used to assess whether the market is overbought or oversold, and to identify potential accumulation by buyers. Bullish divergence occurs when a decline in price is accompanied by an increase in momentum, typically signaling a reversal. In this case, the bullish divergence suggests that buyers are gaining strength, potentially driving the price toward the 200-day exponential moving average, EMA, at $59,000 in the near term. While Bitcoin's market environment remains complex, key indicators and strategic insights suggest a potentially significant upside, driven by both market sentiment and broader adoption catalysts. And lots of things Saylor discusses, so please watch the video to end and share this video and subscribe our channel Everyday Finance. Thanks.
but let me guarantee you that within a year or 2 years of when it's possible to custody Bitcoin, JP Morgan will start a process to do that. And within 4 years, they'll be custodying Bitcoin because it's money and that's what they do. So you want a world where Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, JP Morgan can custody Bitcoin, because if they can custody it, they can buy it for you. And if they can buy it, they can sell it. And if they can buy it and sell it and custody it, they will give you a loan on it. And they will also give you yield on it. So the world after the banks can custody Bitcoin will be, I could have Bitcoin at a bank too big to fail, backed by $1 trillion balance sheet. They would give me 500 basis points of yield. You know how much money you get if you put your money in T-bills right now? You get 550 basis points risk-free. I think that the banks will give Bitcoiners 550 basis points risk-free when they can custody the Bitcoin. And so the world would be very different if you got paid 5% interest on your Bitcoin while you're actually holding the Bitcoin. And I think the other thing is they will give you a loan at SOFR, which is 550 basis points plus 50 basis points spread. So you can get a loan of 6% from Citibank or Bank of America when they can custody the Bitcoin. And then the third thing is they'll let you post the Bitcoin as collateral against your house or your mortgage, And you'll be able to I think, refinance your mortgage maybe to 100% loan to value or 120% loan to value by putting the Bitcoin as collateral. Like right now, if you go to some of these banks and you had a $5 million house and you wanted to borrow money, they might say, well, I can loan you 70% or 60%. I'll loan you $3 million against the house at the best interest rate. It used to be 2.5%, by the way. When I told people to take mortgages and buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin was $40,000 and the mortgages were 2.5% interest. I took infinite crap for that, by the way, infinite. Well, so you want to borrow the $3 million. What they would say is, I'll give you a loan for $3 million against the house, or I'll make the mortgage $5 million if you post some securities like Apple stock. If you want to post T-bills or Apple stock or the S&P ETF, they will give you a $5 million mortgage at 2.5% interest. And you could have done that with those institutional grade assets. Imagine a world where you can top up your mortgage with Bitcoin, borrow at 3 or 4 or 5% interest for 10 to 30 years.
Bitcoin saw a 7% decrease from September 5th to September 7th, yet it sustained a daily closing price close to $54,000. Subsequently, it recovered part of its losses, achieving a price of $55,500. The observed price action exhibited a strong correlation with trends in global equity markets. Multiple variables, such as expected inflation metrics and increasing apprehensions regarding the supremacy of the US dollar, contribute to the backdrop of Bitcoin's partial resurgence. The S&P 500 index futures increased by 1.4% from their low on September 6th, reflecting a growing investor confidence that the U.S. Federal Reserve may implement interest rate cuts to foster economic growth in the near future. Forecasts indicate a potential deceleration in inflation, which has traditionally posed a significant obstacle to the adoption of a more accommodative monetary policy. The U.S. Consumer Price Index, CPI, is anticipated to reflect a 2.6% year-over-year rise for August, with the report scheduled for release on September 11th. The relationship between reduced inflation and Bitcoin is complex and multifaceted. Bitcoin has often been regarded as a hedge because of its limited supply and decentralized characteristics. However, its price may also experience upward pressure from enhanced liquidity in the market, particularly if lower inflation results in more affordable capital and decreasing yields on fixed income assets. For instance, UserApps32 pointed out on Talk Social Network that the previous cycle of declining US interest rates, which commenced in 2019, initially stimulated a bullish trend for Bitcoin. However, this trend ultimately proved unsustainable in the medium term. Certain experts indicate that a possible adjustment to the $45,000 range may offer a compelling opportunity for long-term investors. Therefore, although a decrease in interest rates may appear to benefit Bitcoin, it is wise to exercise caution regarding optimistic projections. Additionally, Bitcoin encounters rivalry from technology equities, which may be perceived as more appealing due to their consistent cash flow and growth prospects. Irrespective of changes in U.S. monetary policy, attention from investors is increasingly directed towards the forthcoming U.S. presidential election scheduled for November. The Republican Party, alongside former President Donald Trump, has put forth a proposal to implement 100% import tariffs on nations that refrain from utilizing the US dollar for international transactions. This action aligns with the recent strategies adopted by countries such as China, India, Brazil, and Russia, aimed at diminishing their dependence on the dollar by exploring alternative transaction mechanisms. During a rally in Wisconsin on September 7th, as noted by Bloomberg, Trump reiterated his dedication to preserving the US dollar's position as the leading reserve currency globally. Commerzbank strategist Ulrich Leuchtmann has observed that this policy might unintentionally prompt nations to reduce their reliance on the dollar, which could jeopardize the safe haven status of US treasuries. Leuchtmann recommends that investors conduct a thorough analysis of Trump's campaign statements, acknowledging that not every commitment may come to fruition. From an investment perspective, a depreciating US dollar typically bolsters Bitcoin's valuation. However, this does not ensure that Bitcoin will surpass the performance of conventional assets such as gold, equities, or real estate. The sustained strength in Bitcoin's key derivatives demand metrics should be viewed as a favorable sign for its short-term prospects, while macroeconomic factors, including potential interest rate cuts and geopolitical developments, may offer some support for Bitcoin. It is essential to exercise caution due to the complexities of the current financial environment and the uncertainties related to US policy direction. Let's get back to Michael's Saylor interview.
Right, and what's the requirement? The banks got to custody the Bitcoin. They got to recognize it as an asset that's just as good as Apple stock, just as good as a T-bill. And so I think, we're rippling where we get a couple more improvements on the ETFs. We'll be at 100%. A few years from now, we'll be at 100% in accounting, and people will be comfortable with that. Once the regulators, when they start to repeat what Robert F. Kennedy said yesterday, and what Donald Trump said today, which is Bitcoin is digital property, Bitcoin is freedom, Bitcoin is virtuous, we're not going to sell our Bitcoin. When they say that, the banks pay attention. Okay, the banks, you got to look at this as the banks are looking to the regulator is looking to the president, the administration. When the president says, this is sketchy stuff, it's used by criminals, the banks take that, and they pay attention. And you know what happens if you don't pay attention? The Signature and Silvergate Bank both actually were very pro-Bitcoin and pro-crypto, and they got out on a limb, and the regulators shut down the two banks, right? And so you can see why banks are conservative. You can see why public companies are conservative. The SEC, the CFTC, the OCC, and the FDIC matter. Political leadership matters. Rhetoric matters. So the words have changed. If Bitcoin is good for America, if it's good for the dollar, if it's good for the country's prosperity, if it's going to grow the economy, if that's the case, we're going to see all of those switches flip. Those all became catalysts, and now you have the three planks of institutional adoption. And now I want to make an observation. Citibank is based on National City Bank. And do you guys know the origin of National City Bank? The head of National City Bank was John D. Rockefeller's brother. And National City Bank was the bank set up by John D. Rockefeller because he didn't want to trust his money with J.P. Morgan. And so that happened more than 100 years ago.
Ethereum market. 2. Evaluating the recent decline in value Ethereum's price has experienced notable downward momentum, decreasing almost 4% on September 7th and falling by 10% over the course of September. The recent downturn can be attributed to several challenges, impacting the second largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. The decline in the cryptocurrency market on September 6th can be attributed to the publication of U.S. non-farm payrolls data, which reported a figure of 142,000, significantly underperforming the anticipated 64,000. The recent downturn in Ethereum's price aligns with notable outflows from Ethereum exchange-traded funds, ETFs, in the initial week of September, highlighting a prevailing absence of institutional interest in the asset. During this period, the Grayscale Ethereum Trust emerged as the main contributor to selling pressure, recording net outflows of $111 million from spot Ethereum ETFs. On September 3rd and September 4th, the most significant individual outflows were recorded, totaling $52.3 million and $46 million, respectively. Conversely, inflows were limited, as Fidelity recorded only $4.9 million on September 3rd, while BlackRock noted $4.7 million on September 7th. The current weak demand environment appears to have influenced WisdomTree's decision to withdraw its Ethereum Trust S1 registration. Similarly, asset manager VanEck has opted to discontinue its Ethereum Futures ETF, referencing concerns related to performance, liquidity, assets under management, and insufficient investor interest. Furthermore, Ethereum has experienced a lack of significant interest from retail investors in the previous month. Over the past 30 days, centralized exchanges have experienced negative net flows, totaling $856 million in outflows, which suggests a diminished buying pressure in the market. In the futures market, it seems that traders are viewing the current price movements as an opportunity to initiate short positions. From September 1st, there has been a 12% rise in Ethereum's open interest, OI, accompanied by a gradual decline in the funding rate. This observation indicates that a considerable proportion of traders have been actively engaging in short positions on Ethereum throughout this time frame. The present open interest has reached levels comparable to those observed on August 27th, coinciding with Ethereum prices near $2,500. The observed inverse correlation between increasing open interest and decreasing prices, along with a diminishing funding rate, appears to be influencing Ethereum's recent downward price movement. This decline in Ethereum's value is indicative of a confluence of factors, including subdued demand from both institutional and retail investors, notable outflows from ETFs, and a dominant bearish outlook among futures market participants. In the absence of a shift in these dynamics, Ethereum is likely to experience continued downward pressure in the short term. If you learned something from this video, then please like this video and subscribe our channel Everyday Finance, and we will meet in next video. Thanks.